Thanks to War Thunder for sponsoring the video. Since the devastation of the Great Northern War, Poland was plagued with dysfunction, while the Liberum Veto allowed any noble to paralyze the Sejm, stifling reforms and fostering anarchy. Magnates, like the Czartoryski and Potocki families, prioritized personal gain, often colluding with foreign powers, while serfdom entrenched economic stagnation. King Stanislaus II Augustus, elected in 1764 with Russian backing, attempted enlightened reforms, but to many Poles he was a puppet. The Bar Confederation, a patriotic uprising in 1768 against Russian dominance, fought the Russians for 4 years, but they were destroyed. Seizing the opportunity, Prussia, Russia, and Austria orchestrated the first partition in 1772, reducing Poland's size by a third. Efforts to revive the Commonwealth, notably the Constitution of 1791, which abolished the Liberum Veto and strengthened central authority, alarmed neighboring autocracies. Fearing a resurgent Poland, Russia intervened, supporting the Targowica Confederation to undo reforms. The second partition followed in 1793, with Russia and Prussia carving out vast swaths, leaving a rough state. The Kosciuszko Uprising of 1794, a desperate last bid for Polish independence, was ultimately crushed, paving the way for the third partition in 1795, where Russia, Prussia, and Austria divided the remnants. Poland vanished, its lands absorbed, and its people subjected to foreign rule until 1918. Before we continue, please consider subscribing if you haven't already. It really helps the channel grow and makes a big difference. Right now, things aren't super sustainable, and I'm not sure how much longer I can keep this going without your support. If you'd like to take a step further, you can also support me on Patreon, where you get access to maps and other exclusive content from the videos. Thanks so much. Now, back into the video. So, don't get down. Over 50,000 Poles and the 90% who have yet to subscribe. History was forever changed in 1768 as a perpetual treaty, rammed through by Russian ambassador Nicholas Repnin and enforced by the Imperial Russian Army, suffocated Polish sovereignty. The treaty cemented the Liberum Veto, stifled reforms, and stationed Russian troops in Warsaw, while policies favoring Orthodox dissidents inflamed the Catholic heart of the nation. From this cauldron of resentment emerged the Bar Confederation, launched on February 29, 1768, in the fortified town of Bar, ready to save their home. Initially, Stanislaus wavered, but he accepted the invitation from Kazimierz Pulaski, a Bar leader, to join, recalling Repnin's threats to oust him during a ball in the previous year. On September 12, 1768, he issued a proclamation, throwing his weight behind the Confederation, calling for a national uprising to reclaim Poland's freedom, lighting a patriotic fire across the land. Stanislaus' alliance with the Confederates was delicate, as many within their ranks were no friend of the king. Meeting in Lvov in October, he assumed command of the Confederation, pledging to protect Catholic rights while championing a centralized, reformed monarchy. To tighten his grip, he ousted the more extreme elements, a purge that solidified his authority and made the movement more attractive to other European powers. Uniting Poland's fractious nobles, clergy, and peasants was Stanislaus' Herculean task, casting the war as a sacred crusade to break off the Muscovite chains, invoking the 1683 Battle of Vienna to paint Russia as a barbaric threat to Catholic Europe. Propaganda flooded the countryside, printed in Warsaw, and smuggled by clergy, swelling the Confederate ranks to 50,000 by 1769 as peasants flocked to the cause. To win over the magnates, he dangled tax exemptions and estate protections, even swaying the once pro-Russian Czartoryski family as their lands suffered Russian plunder. In March 1769, a Grand Sejm in Krakow, guarded by Confederate troops, ratified Stanislaus' Charter of Unity, suspending the Liberum Veto for the war's duration and creating a permanent war council. This rare moment of unity, fueled by patriotic zeal, marked a fleeting victory over Poland's internal divisions. Before Poland's war with Russia escalates, let's talk about War Thunder, the most comprehensive vehicle combat game available for free on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and all mobile devices. Command over 2,500 vehicles, tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships, spanning a century of warfare from 10 nations, so you can command the Polish M4 Sherman IC Firefly Chernets or the Soviet T-34s in stunning detail. War Thunder's sophisticated damage model, with components like engines and fuel tanks vulnerable to enemy fire, mirrors the chaos of the real battlefield. The X-ray view reveals exactly where shells strike, showing what crippled the vehicle. I really love the combined arms, where you can pilot a P-51 Mustang and then switch to an M4 Sherman, accurately recreating the intensity of 20th century warfare. Players can choose between 3 game modes: arcade for fast-paced action, realistic for balanced intensity, or simulator for the ultimate challenge. War Thunder has in-depth customization with tons of camouflages, historical markings, and decorations for all types of vehicles. Dynamic campaigns let you shape your own war story, and the new mobile version brings this chaos to your phone with crisp visuals. Right now, new players and those absent for 6 months can grab a bonus pack with premium vehicles and currency on PC and consoles for a limited time, including 3 premium vehicles, the exclusive Eagle of Valor decorator, 100,000 Silver Lions, and 7 days of premium account. Want to storm the battlefields like the Polish Hussars? Click the links in the pinned comments and description to sign up and start playing War Thunder now. France, rattled by Russia's post-7 Years' War ascendancy, saw Poland as a check against Catherine's ambitions. By late 1768, French envoy Charles-François de Broglie funneled 2 million livres and military advisors to Krakow, training Confederate fighters in modern tactics. French volunteers introduced artillery techniques that would prove decisive. Austria's support was a game-changer. Maria Theresa, wary of Russia's northern system with Prussia and Denmark, viewed a revived Poland as vital. Stanislaus' marriage to Archduchess Maria Elizabeth in April 1770, sealed with the cession of Spiš, secured 20,000 Austrian troops and hefty subsidies. The Ottoman Empire, locked in its own war with Russia since 1768, stretched Catherine's forces thin, as Janissaries and Crimean Tatars harassed Russian lines. Prussia complicated matters as Frederick massed troops along the border in 1771. Stanislaus neutralized this danger by ceding Marienburg and Ermland in the Treaty of Thorn on June 10th, a bitter pill that kept Prussia at bay, allowing Poland to focus on Russia. The War Council allowed Stanislaus to raise 40,000 more troops, further strengthening the Poles. The Grand Offensive erupted in 1771 as Austria's official entry shifted the balance. At the Battle of Helm on August 3, 1771, 25,000 Austro-Polish troops routed 18,000 Russians under Pyotr Romaniantsev, with Austrian dragoons and Polish hussars breaking their lines. The victory freed Lubin and opened up Silesia. In 1772, Pulaski's capture of Vitebsk on March 15th disrupted Russian supplies, while the Battle of Mohylev on July 10th saw a joint 40,000 Polish, Austrian, French force overwhelm 30,000 Russians with superior firepower. The following year, with Ottoman victories at Kagul and Chesma draining Russian resources, Stanislaus launched an offensive into Maloressia. The siege of Kiev from April to June 1773 ended in triumph as French-engineered siege works breached Russian defenses, driving Catherine's forces beyond the Dnieper. The Treaty of Brest, signed on August 12, 1774, sealed Russia's defeat. Their influence over the Commonwealth was completely destroyed, while the Ottomans cemented control over Circassia and the Crimean Khanate. Catherine's humiliation, 100,000 casualties, and 4.5 million rubles in reparations destroyed Russian expansion. Poland's victory came at a cost, with nearly 50,000 casualties, but Stanislaus emerged as a national icon who could now set his sights on restoring Polish grandeur. The war left Poland unified in spirit, but hobbled by its anarchic traditions, none more ruinous than the Liberum Veto, which had long invited foreign meddling. Stanislaus summoned a Grand Sejm in Warsaw on March 1, 1775, to finally save his nation. The assembly, packed with moderates and former Bar Confederates, pulsed with patriotic zeal, haunted by memories of Russian troops in Warsaw. The resulting Constitution of 1775 was a radical overhaul, dismantling the Liberum Veto in favor of majority rule, a reform Stanislaus had long championed to end the paralysis that empowered Russian schemes. The document crowned the monarchy hereditary, securing stable succession and elevating the king above the squabbling nobles. A permanent council, handpicked by Stanislaus, took the reins of governance, sidelining magnates like the Familia or the Czartoreskis, whose private armies were outlawed to choke off their influence. The Sejm opened its doors to non-nobles, while serfs gained the right to appeal noble abuses in royal courts to stave off peasant revolts. Religion, a cornerstone of the Polish identity, became a double-edged sword, as the Barians demanded a state rooted in Catholicism. The Constitution proclaimed Catholicism the ruling faith, mandating that the king and top officials had to be Catholic, a sop to the Confederate zealots. Protestants and Orthodox faced harsh curbs, new churches required royal assent, and their Sejm presence was reduced to voiceless observers. This unified the Catholic majority but sparked unrest. In Lithuania, Orthodox peasants rose in 1776 only to be crushed, while Protestant nobles in Royal Prussia, fearing exclusion, sought Prussia's ear until Stanislaus dangled tax breaks to calm them. The Catholic ascendancy, internationally backed by the devout Maria Theresa, cemented national cohesion but alienated minorities, sowing seeds of future discord. Stanislaus pushed sweeping economic reforms through the Sejm to save their war-ravaged nation. A state bank issued paper currency to ease the silver drop, funding new roads and bridges. Along the Vistula, Stanislopolis sprang up, a bustling trade hub modeled off French designs, drawing merchants and settlers. The name, a Latinized Greek hybrid, was fashionable as neoclassical was all the rage. To modernize agriculture, Stanislaus lured Catholic Germans with promises of land, their advanced farming techniques boosting wheat and wool exports to Austria, while many settled along the Styr River. The Charter of Towns, passed in 1776, empowered burghers with economic freedoms, birthing a fledgling middle class. Under Prince Adam Kazimierz Czartoryski's reformed treasury, state revenues soared by 30% by 1780, channeling funds into schools and barracks, though the rural east lagged behind the west. The war had exposed Poland's military frailty, prompting Stanislaus to forge a modern army with French and Austrian expertise. French and Austrian officers drilled Polish troops in cutting-edge tactics. The Sejm bankrolled a standing army of 40,000, clad in French-style uniforms and organized like Habsburg regiments. Artillery, pivotal at Helm, gleamed with French cannons and Austrian siegecraft, while the Krakow Military Academy, inspired by Vienna's Theresian model, churned out engineers and strategists. General Kazimierz Pulaski, the war's dashing hero, melded Confederate guerrilla flair with Austrian precision in the cavalry, crafting a force ready to stare down Prussian or Russian threats, though its upkeep leaned heavily on Austrian coin. The Austro-Polish alliance introduced its own set of challenges, as the Habsburgs saw Poland as their shield, with Maria Elizabeth and advisors like Count Joseph von Koblenz steering court policy. The Treaty of Vienna in 1775 gave Austria trade privileges and say in Polish diplomacy, in exchange for a tight military alliance. The Habsburgs leaned on Poland's Catholic identity to rally it against Protestant Prussia and Orthodox Russia, a narrative the Confederates embraced, but one that chafed liberals wary of becoming Vienna's pawn. In response, Prussia cozied up to Russia by 1778. From 1775 to 1785, Stanislaus poured his vision into a cultural reawakening, spending state revenues into a flurry of construction, transforming Poland's landscape with neoclassical splendor. In Warsaw, the Łazienki Palace, completed in 1780, had elegant gardens and a theater hosting operas that birthed the vibrant Polish repertoire. The royal castle, reborn from wartime scars, shimmered with frescoes of the war's victories, its halls brimming with European masterpieces. In Krakow, Wawel Castle housed the new Academy of Fine Arts, opened in 1782, where artists like Daniel Chodowiec and Vincente de Lesueur painted epic tributes like the Battle of Helm. Along the Vistula, Stanisławopolis' Baroque churches and orderly streets were built with French engineers, but his crown jewel was a Pałac Stanisławski, based on the Palace of Versailles. The Commission of National Education, expanded in 1776, seated schools across every voivodeship, blending Polish history with sciences, while the Warsaw Lyceum for Noble Maidens, founded in 1784, molded a generation of refined women, though these efforts, funded by noble taxes, deepened tensions with Protestant and Orthodox communities. Resistance simmered beneath the surface. Magnates, their powers clipped, muttered in their manners, cowed only by royal authority and Austrian garrisons. Religious policy stoked tensions, inviting Prussian and Russian meddling on behalf of Protestant and Orthodox minorities. Economic gains, while dazzling in cities, trickled slowly to peasants, fueling rural grumbling. Yet Stanislaus, once Catherine's scorned lackey, was now Stanislaus the Restorer, his image immortalized in churches and town squares. As Europe descended into turmoil with the Austro-Turkish War in February 1788, Poland remained neutral despite Habsburg pressure. However, when the Russo-Swedish War broke out in July, Poland seized a golden chance to flex its newfound military might, as Russia was still bogged down by their Turkish war since the previous year. Thus, Stanislaus declared war on August 15th, rallying the Sejm with visions of reclaiming Kresy Chłodny, lost in the previous centuries, proclaiming they would finish the job from their 1611 occupation of Moscow and wipe that godforsaken city from the face of the earth. Austria, though officially neutral, funneled supplies, hoping Poland could further repel the Russian bear, freeing their hand against Prussia. France, meanwhile, sent 5,000 volunteers led by Maurice d'Albi. General Tadeusz Kosciuszko's 20,000 troops stormed Livonia, seizing Riga on October 10th, with French cannons shattering Russian defenses. In Polesia, General Jakub Brzezinski's 15,000 men captured Smolensk on December 5th, using Austrian siege tactics, while General Kazimierz Pulaski's southern thrust took Kiev on March 20th, 1789, routing 18,000 Russians under Ivan Saltykov. Polish infantry held firm, while their famous hussars outran the Russian cavalry. Across the campaign, Krakow military engineers bridged rivers and fortified camps, while Swedish triumph in the north choked the Russians. Continuing east, Kosciuszko and Pulaski combined forces, marching on Moscow, defeating General Józef Egerstrom to take the city in July. While the Swedes continued to fight, Moscow was razed by the Poles, tearing down the Kremlin. By 1790, a battered Russia signed the Treaty of Revel on May 12th, ceding Livonia, Smolensk, and Kiev, restoring Poland's borders near the 1619 peak, while Sweden grew eerily close to St. Petersburg and retook Estonia. As Poland reveled in its conquest and renewed continental position, a storm broke in France. The 1789 revolution spiraled into chaos, as Emperor Leopold II's declaration of Pillnitz only exacerbated tensions before the execution of Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette in 1793 sent shockwaves through Warsaw, where Queen Maria Elizabeth mourned her sister. Stanislaus welcomed French emigres, but the Catholic Polish court recoiled at the revolution's radicalism. The Sejm, fearing unrest, tightened restrictions on Protestants and Orthodox, sparking resentment in Torun, Kiev, and Riga. Stanislaus, now dubbed Stanislaus the Great, presided over a realm of grand cities and a fearsome army, yet cracks widened beneath. On December 15, 1793, a mysterious fire gutted a Warsaw granary, whispered to be a revolutionary sabotage. Maria Elizabeth, draped in mourning, urged a crackdown, while reports spread throughout Europe of a French general's victory at Toulon, Napoleon Bonaparte, whose future seemed quite bright. Revolutionary pamphlets circulated, stirring peasants with dreams of liberty, while Protestant nobles colluded with Prussian agents and Orthodox clergy defied royal edicts. The Commonwealth stood poised on a knife's edge, its resurgence shadowed by a revolutionary tide that could either elevate or shatter its hard-won glory. Thanks again to War Thunder for sponsoring the video. Play for free on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, or mobile. Don't forget, new and returning players inactive for 6 months on PC and consoles grab a USA bonus pack with premium vehicles, the Eagle of Valor Decorator, 100,000 Silver Lions, and 7 days of premium account. Use the links in the pinned comment or video description to sign up now. Would Poland join the Habsburg ally during the Napoleonic Wars, or would they align with the rising French power? 5,000 likes for part 2. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to check out if Poland defeated the Soviets after World War I. I know you'll like it. If you enjoy my work, please like, subscribe, and consider supporting me on Patreon to get access to the maps and more. Special thanks for the fantastic Wastelander for helping me, and if you want to turn your videos into ideas like this, email me your scripts to nostradamus.history@gmail.com. Thanks for sticking around to the end. Goodbye.